Hi YouTube. Today I'm going to talk to you about why your career trajectory is rarely linear. I once heard someone describe their career trajectory as being like a drunken stumble from one job to the next. And I actually feel like that there's some freedom in that. So let me tell you a bit about who I am. So I'm Sally. I work as a yoga teacher and also as a counselor for people making habit change and also overall sort of well-being and health counseling. Now, if I talk about my own career, and I thought this would be a nice little story time for my channel, I've made different choices for different reasons over my career path, and I thought that might just give you an insight into what kind of videos you'll see on my channel, the history of my sort of YouTube channel, and why I'm still working on the next steps in my career. Like, I don't think you ever arrive in your career, so it's nice to think of it as a path that you keep journeying on. So first of all, I started out as an economist, and I also learned Mandarin. So I studied Chinese in China. I worked for the government as an economist. I lived and worked in China, so I spoke Mandarin. And in my 20s, I really used that time to travel and work in a lot of different places. So I lived in Canberra in Australia, in Sydney, in Beijing. I lived and worked in Qingdao. And then when it was time for me to settle down, I moved back to Brisbane in Australia and had my family. And so then, since I had children, obviously that's influenced my the decisions related to my career. And I think that when you are making your career journey, where you are in your stage of life is also very important. So when my children were small, I worked for myself, and I actually did some language teaching. So I was teaching Mandarin, and that's the time when I was making lots of YouTube videos on learning Chinese and how to pronounce Chinese videos. So you'll be able to see some of those videos on my channel. And around that time, I also got interested in yoga, and I did my yoga teacher training, which is actually a really, there's a nice connection to that with my Chinese experience, because I found a yoga teacher who had the yoga teacher for my yoga teacher training had studied yoga in Japan, and so there was a really nice overlay of traditional Chinese medicine and Chinese 5-element theory, which I had gotten a sense of when for my time living in China. And so there was a really nice connection there between my time living in China, my Mandarin skills, and the Taoism, traditional Chinese medicine. So a lot of that kind of feeds into my yoga. If you've ever done yin yoga, you know that you work on the meridians, which is the lines of energy, the energy meridians of the body in traditional Chinese medicine. That also ties into EFT tapping that I talked about. So in EFT, that you're tapping on acupuncture points, which also come from traditional Chinese medicine. So see how it all sort of weaves together your different interests. Now, actually, also around this time when my children were small, I did some counselling for the Breastfeeding Association. I was like a volunteer peer support counsellor, and I really enjoyed that counselling. And having done that, then I decided I wanted to go and study psychology, which is why I went back to university and studied psychology. And now my current job is working in counselling, and I teach yoga, and even there's a link back to Mandarin here. Currently in my work as a counsellor, I sometimes have Chinese clients who only speak Mandarin, and I get to do those counselling calls in Mandarin. So that's a really nice. I actually really enjoy the work that I do at the moment as a counsellor. I love working with people. I love being curious about where they're at in their life, what's important to them, helping them to figure out what changes that they want to make in their life. And sometimes to be able to do that in a second language with people with different cultural backgrounds is super interesting. And so I love it that I can combine those things. And I probably wouldn't have planned that out if I knew that, or if I kind of even knew how to plan that. So I think that's just an example of how you just kind of stumble from one thing to another, and then you find your path. So if you're feeling a bit uncertain, just keep going. Sometimes I look at my career trajectory and I see some of my friends who stayed in one job for a long time. Say, for example, they started off in Canberra with a graduate role for the government, which is where I started, and they stayed in that environment, and they really thrived, and they've done really well, and they've slowly worked their way up. But that doesn't suit with kind of my personality. I've rarely stayed in a job longer than 2 years, so I'm a very high in openness, so I like to try different things. I like to travel and I like to explore, and so staying in one job just doesn't fit with my personality, so there's no point in me beating myself up because of my sort of that spontaneity, that openness that I really embraced in my 20s and led me to different places in different jobs. And I need to be accepting of that and grateful for that, because that's gotten to me where I am today. So that's just a really brief run through of my career and where I'm at. And I'm still, you know, even at my age, I'm looking for the next step. You know, there's different ways that your experience will come to the fore at different times. So yeah, I just wanted to give you that bit of an overview of my career. All of those experiences over that time make me kind of who I am and help me decide on the direction that I'm going next. Do the next interesting thing for you, that next challenge. Continue to work on improving, and the next step will present itself. All right, YouTube, great to chat. Hope you're having a great week. Yeah, let me know about your career trajectory, where you're headed next, if you have any regrets about your career. I hope you found this interesting, YouTube, and I will see you for the next video. Bye-bye. I'm also filming this on a work break, so time to get back. All right, see ya.